to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane. Starring Ryan Rash.
Racehorses wear blinders so they can focus on their own race. Many people should do the same.
And Dale Hummel.
Wake up and find a way to do better.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good morning, Ryan. It's chilly in the north today.
It's not chilly here.
Crockett is kind of almost the ideal place to live.
No, it is absolutely god-awful place to live. We have no seasons. All it does is rain, and there's 7,000 people in this town, and 6,000 of them are ready to die. Next.
Now, our producer did go through Crockett this week.
Yes, and he attests to the fact that this place is God's most terrible place to live. Yeah, it's great.
He did text me, I think, when he got into town at the gas station. He got one of those little map of the stars things at the gas station.
Right.
Like
You're
Hollywood.
so funny.
He found Gay Hill. He found it.
So funny.
That was pretty funny. That was pretty good.
Mm.
Did you see the Fox Christmas tree? They're very proud of what happened to that last night.
Yeah, arsonists took it out. But they're rebuilding.
Yeah. That's good.
Now, he may get released today, but he did go to jail. And he got charged with, I don't know, they listed off a whole... Those people are pissed. They are angry.
They are angry.
They are mad that the homeboy took out their Christmas tree. And I didn't see the Christmas tree, but they normally have a beautiful Christmas tree.
I did. It was very nice. I mean, maybe overly decorated, but red, white, and blue. It was good.
But yeah.
Do you remember, speaking of things like that, do you remember the actor Jesse Smollett?
Oh, yeah. Isn't he a joke?
Yeah, the one that staged the race crime in Chicago. And
hate crime.
They weren't going to prosecute.
Hate crime.
Yeah. MAGA supporters beat him up at 2 a.m. and tried to hang him.
First it was white MAGA supporters. Then it was pale MAGA supporters. Now they're Nigerian. And it was his two trainers.
Yeah, that he staged to do this.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
And now I hear that it was not a hoax, says Smollett. In the trial, under oath, he did not stage this. It's real.
Right. And he has permanent facial scarring and all this other stuff. Like, I don't.
How is this even possible?
I do not know.
I tell you what, I would hang him for everything.
I think closing arguments for yesterday, I don't know, because I watched a little bit of it, but it's like the stupidest thing ever. Like, I think the jury should wait 5 minutes and go, no.
Exactly. Just we're done. We're out. We're done with this. I guess that the theory was, they said, obviously, if they just get one jury to buy into the fact that whatever he's saying is truthful, then it's a hung jury and he gets off. It just, that cannot happen. I don't see how it can happen, but let's hope it doesn't. What about Merry Christmas to all in New York City?
Oh, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Every private employer has to mandate or has to require their employees to have a vaccination by December 27th. De Blasio's going away present. What would you call that?
But so this is what I don't understand. Okay. He's out of office on January 1st, and he's putting this in that the private sector people in the workforce have to be vaccinated. Children over 5 to go eat in a restaurant have to be vaccinated. All this stuff. How can he get away with this when 4 days later, he no longer has any power?
And his advisors, there's no question, whoever he gets advice from, that they know that this is not going to hold up in court. It's not constitutional. It's not going to happen, or they can't force it to happen. So all I can think of, it's just a publicity stunt. I don't. There's nothing else that can come of it.
Well, somebody says because he's going to run for president. Well, he can't run for president because Biden is running again.
I thought he's running for governor of New York.
These people said president. I just thought
maybe. Is just as likely as winning governorship in New York. Both are just as likely.
Possible, sir, because Biden has announced he's going to run. So I don't know, but yeah, he's a joke. And again, I am not beating this vaccine bullshit to whatever. I don't care anymore. I am so over COVID and Delta, Tigma, whatever. I am over it. All of it. Over it. But I do not understand how he thinks he can do this, and 4 days later he's out. Whoever is taking his spot is going to reverse this. This is just stupid.
I don't know if they'll bother reversing. I don't even know that. I think as soon as somebody brings it up in one of the courts, it's done. So I don't know. I guess it depends on what judge they get. Speaking of just falsities, lies, crazy statements that are coming from the extreme left, AOC made the comment that smash and grab looting is not happening. And Circle Back comes back and just says, oh, it's just from COVID. That's why it's happening. It's all COVID.
Yeah,
Both of them. How do people accept these lies?
I'm telling you, I actually honestly believe, and this is not being rude. This is just being honest. I do not think AOC lives in reality like normal Americans. Like, I think she truly, like, what she perceives and believes is just made up in her head, and that's what it is. So while she is delusional and beyond stupid, I do not think that she maliciously is doing this. I think that's what she truly believes. She's that dumb.
That is a great analogy, because if she was just out there making this up, if she didn't believe this, we'd catch her on. She's very consistent with her ignorance. Yeah,
she is like literally about everything. It is her world. Everybody else outside of her world that's living. No. I truly think the woman has got big psychological delusional issues. I mean, I do not think she is maliciously lying to the American people. She is stating her version of the truth.
I believe that to be true. I'm also very angry about something, and I want to stay kind of in a good mood today, but I did, and it's not getting much attention, that the Remain in Mexico policy that Trump had implemented starting December 6th. So this is already in play. This past Monday, the courts reversed Biden's executive order. So the Remain in Mexico policy is how it should be, that Biden had no justification for that executive order, and then the courts shot it down. So the Biden administration made the decision to cancel Remain in Mexico, but the courts framed this executive order illegal. So it has zero justification, I guess is the best way to put it. However, the sad part is now Biden has it, and there's loopholes in this. All they have to do if they apprehend an illegal crossing the border is that person says that they're afraid to go back to Mexico or whatever their home country is, particularly, I guess, in this case, Mexico. If they say they're fearful to go back, then they don't have to send them back. They can't send them back. It's that simple statement. And trust me, they all know about it. We're not just now telling them about it. So it's doing nothing, absolutely nothing. And I put all this right on Biden's plate, and nobody seems to want to even talk about it. There's just so many crises going on that I guess you just bounce from one to another. And this one's not on the radar right now.
Okay, hold on. You need to back up. There's a border crisis. There's an inflation crisis. There's a shipping supply crisis. There's an economy crisis. There's a jobs crisis. We had the Afghanistan crisis. We have China about to invade Taiwan. We have Russia about to invade Ukraine. We have the Olympic crisis. You gotta pick. It can't get that much attention because we're like in double digits on the number of things that are literally at a boiling point in this country, and homeboy ain't even been in office a year.
No, is this possible that Oz is so brilliant? This is a master plan to bring so much of a shitstorm that we can't even focus on any one thing. Maybe Oz has a master plan.
No, because they're not going to get reelected. So there is no master plan. There is none. They're just
You think
stupid.
It's just that ignorant, out of ignorance?
Yes.
I just can't even accept it.
I do. And everybody's saying it's Obama. It's not, because Obama got elected twice. And while I did not agree with most of the stuff that man did, he was not this dumb.
No, he was very smooth about everything he did. I did not agree with any of his policy, but he was smooth enough to push some of those things across to not take as much heat for him.
How about Cuomo? Your boy got fired.
I can't even believe it.
You can no longer watch CNN. I know.
I can't.
Yeah. Cuomo gets fired. So he helped when his brother was having all the sexual harassment nonsense. He gave him too much advice, lied about that he wasn't helping his brother. So now the text and all this other stuff comes out that he did. So CNN fired him. And now Cuomo is suing CNN because he does not get severance pay. Now, I don't know what Chris Cuomo's worth, but I'm going to say it's a lot. Because literally, that was the #1 rated show on CNN, and it was in the most competitive time slot. And he had the best show at CNN. So I'm going to say he's worth a lot already, and now he's going to sue CNN over severance.
that's incredible to me. And I don't have any idea what his salary or what his contract is. None of this surprises me. Maybe the biggest surprise is that they fired him, I guess, but I don't know.
They didn't have a choice.
Yeah, agreed.
They did not have a choice in the situation, which I can't wait to see what the Cuomo brothers do next because they're both unemployed. Oh, I just looked it up. Chris Cuomo's net worth is $12 million, but he needs to sue over severance pay.
So he's fine. Agreed.
Because he's hurting.
What about the Biden-Putin talk?
I don't even want to talk about that because there's more information coming out of Putin in Russia than there is Biden and Circle Back Psaki. And Putin said that the call was very constructive. That means he made Biden his bitch.
Yeah, I have not heard anything on that, but I can envision exactly what's going on.
He had some blunder at the beginning where he called out he was like, so glad to talk to you again. Didn't get to see you at the so-and-so and we should do this in person. And wherever he called out that he saw Putin last, either Putin wasn't there or he called the wrong event. So it started out fabulous. I mean, rock star quality on the start there. Yeah. And you could see Putin's face and he's like, you are an idiot. But anyway. How about all this Olympic drama?
Diplomatic boycott, is that what we call it?
I think so, yes.
When I first heard that, I thought, well, I don't even know what they're talking about, and I didn't get to hear the rest of it, but you can explain it better than I.
What is happening is because Dale's favorite people, the China people, Communist Party, they've got this tennis star. She's basically in prison, but they're telling people she's fine and forcing her to speak on camera. Well, that's just got into a whole nother, all the other abuses of the Chinese regime and all this other stuff. So Winter Olympics are in Beijing in February. And now 5 countries, including the United States, have announced that they will not send an official diplomatic figure to China for the Beijing Olympics. And the Chinese are mad. They are angry because this is like a big old bitch slap on the face to them. And they're going to send athletes because they don't want to deny the athletes that have, been training since they came out of the womb the chance to whatever. But there will be no diplomats there from fighters. And China is mad and they flat said they would retaliate. And when they're asked what that meant, they said, you will have to wait and see.
So they're going to cyber attack us more. They're going to,
dude, I don't know,
speed up
but
their long-term plan to take over the world. I mean, they're already doing everything.
Public, it was.
So they've stated in public their
written statement, everything. Yeah,
all of their intentions are public in terms of what their long-term goal is, how they're buying us, buying our land, buying our companies. Everything they're doing is public, and we know it. Yet we do nothing. I guess I don't. This diplomatic boycott, I guess it's good that it brings some attention to it, but it's ridiculous. It's not punishing China. It's good that they're.
You can't take the Olympics away from them 2 months before, Dale. Where are you gonna move it?
I'm telling you, they should have never got them to begin with.
It didn't matter. That's past the point. What are you gonna do 2 months before? Okay, no Olympics. We just did that.
No, I agree, and I guess this is better than nothing. Where maybe it's at least bringing some attention. I don't know what other countries joined that diplomatic boycott, but if a large number
UK and Australia, I know, and there's 2 others I can't remember, but I know UK and Australia.
Maybe Taiwan, huh?
Well, probably.
I think I don't even know how they split that up. Does Taiwan still have to send their Olympians through the Chinese?
Who knows?
Flag? I don't have a clue, but in all seriousness, and I wasn't even going to bring up China and Russia, Ryan. I was not. I'm trying to avoid it, even though
you brought up Russia yourself.
About Putin and Biden's talk.
That's bringing up Russia. It. Don't lie to the American people, AOC. Don't lie.
I won't. So in all seriousness, and I know I rant about it. I scream about it. I talk about it with people every single day.
Uh-huh.
I am in a very serious note. And people I know have asked you, Ryan, am I seriously that concerned with China and or Russia?
Aliens.
The answer is yes. And on a serious note, in my lifetime and the research that I do over history, in recent history anyway, I don't think the world has been in a more difficult position. And I think a lot of it initially stemmed from jealousy of the success of the great democracy we call the United States. But it's evolved way past that. And when China has their plan to basically take over the world, in the past, Russia and China were a little standoffish with each other. but somehow those barriers have been broken down to combine forces to battle back or to take over, whatever you want to say. There's so many things going on right now, and I do attribute, not that they wouldn't do it anyway, but it's on a fast track because of the Biden administration is asleep at the wheel. Look at what Russia's doing. Look at what China's doing, and there's very little response coming out of the White House. This is a serious issue. What if Russia invades Ukraine? It appears to be imminent. What if China actually goes into Taiwan and tries to take that back? I don't know what kind of response you can give them. What we needed to have happen is stronger leadership similar to what Trump had in place, and I don't think they'd even try it to begin with, because if either of those things happen right now, Ryan, I don't know what the best response is. Do you threaten nuclear war? You sure don't want to do that. Anything short of that's probably not going to stop anything. We're going down a bad path that I'm afraid there is no real solution for.
I truly do not know what the answer to any of this stuff is. I just find it completely crazy that they didn't try any of this shit with Trump and they're just walking all over Biden.
No, and again, it's not that they weren't cyber attacking. It's not that they weren't doing things while Trump was in office, but they were much more nervous about it, and it was much less. Their long-term goal is still there, but they are taking advantage of the situation like we've never seen before. And I don't know that the average person out there fully understands that, and I don't know that they should. I'm obsessed with that because of the seriousness that I feel it is. So I'm going to follow it much closer, but it's in my little world, maybe it's an AOC world, it's a very serious situation that I just don't see a good way out of. So that's my concern, and it is real. At least it's real for me.
I do think that we, on a world stage, we're in a bad situation with both China and Russia. I know this administration does not have the answer. I am hoping that Congress and the Senate can somehow find a way to figure it out till next year or when we have a new president. But it is concerning. It is troubling. I don't know how we get here. And again, with all the crises I listed off, I just don't know how we've got here. And yet, I mean, I do see the media turning on Biden. They are talking about his inability to do much. I mean, he hasn't got his legislation passed. If he doesn't get it passed by Christmas, it's probably not ever going to pass. They talk about the low poll numbers. They talk about inflation. They talk about all these things. So the media is turning on him. It is not nearly to the extent that it needs to be, but it is getting there. So when the media allowed a man to stay in his basement and become president of the United States, when they turn on you, you have to know deep down how truly terrible you are at being the leader of the free world.
There's not been a more accurate statement. They did allow that to happen, and how I can't even explain it, but they did. So they were deep into bed with him, and they are turning.
And they are turning. It's not enough, but they are turning. But I mean, this somebody in this deal. I want what I don't read. I hate reading. I do. I just hate it because my mother anyway, long story. I hate reading, but I will read the book. There's going to be somebody that comes out of this administration that writes a tell-all about how truly screwed up this all was. And I look forward to that book. I am not joking. I really do look forward to that book there because it's going to come. It's going to happen. I know it is because they're going to make
it'll be good.
$400 million. Ooh, Disney. I forgot about Disney. So all you people that love Disney, I'm going to state again, Disney is not a magical kingdom after puberty. Remember that. So Disney has this movie. I can't remember what movie it is right now. To have it shown in China, they're going to make $400 million or whatever. And so China's telling Disney all these things they can and cannot do. And Disney rolled over and did it. How about that?
Isn't that incredible?
How about that?
Kind of like our NBA and a lot of other things. That
and our
China
president.
Has
but
thumb
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And our president, by the way.
And our president,
Toss that in there.
So Disney, bad. Bad people.
Don't support.
I do not support Disney. I promise you.
No, I do not.
I'm not a magical kingdom after puberty. Not.
And I'm paying more attention as the Christmas season and the shopping season is in play. My wife went and purchased some Christmas lights.
Oh,
and what do you think that says on the box?
China!
It says on the box, designed in the USA in very large print. Designed in the USA. And then down lower, what does it say? Made in China.
Mm-hmm.
This is such crap on every level.
At least it was designed in the USA.
I guess, yeah. Somebody thought about making a Christmas light in the USA.
That's positive.
We could strangle them economically if we all tried. The supply chain is bad. I'm gonna use an example. We have a door on our show barn, a big sliding door that's somewhat custom with a different size. I don't know that it's complete custom, but there's a window that we have to have replaced in that to replace the door. And it's been on back order for over 8 months, I think. And I just got a message the other day that it keeps getting pushed back. There's issues out there that we're going to continue to feel for a very long time over the supply chain.
We're not out of them. They've got a lot of those ships unloaded. There's still a lot more out there. And basically, they're just thinking if they can get through the holiday season that this will go away, but it's not going to. Because, for instance, cars, trucks, whatever, you can't get them because they're selling so fast, all this other stuff. I got my new car last November, so it's been over a year. Okay, I ordered one when the new models came out. It never came in, so finally this one came in. We got this one, whatever. Long story short, 2 weeks ago, I get a text message because we had called literally every Cadillac dealership, basically from California to Florida, in the southern part of the United States, trying to get a new Escalade last year. I got a text message 2 weeks ago. Hey, we finally got an Escalade in that somebody, whatever. I was like, dude, I've had a new car for over a year. I mean, that's how bad it is.
But I think that's the reality of it. It really is. I have one more positive note against the gays. You're not going to like me what I talk about here, Ryan.
Imagine
that's what I'm
that.
getting at. Against your wishes, Omicron.
Ugh.
Omicron is out there.
It's bullshit.
There's some really but then and again, I'm not trying to belittle it because it's going to harm some people.
Mm-hmm.
But on the big stage, if you look at it from a scientific,
so is the flu.
Yeah, look at it from a scientific model. It is more contagious than maybe even Delta, and Delta was very, very contagious. But the good thing is, if this becomes the alpha strain, which it appears as though it's going to happen, it also appears that your symptoms are far less, some body aches, cold-like symptoms. And that's a good thing because if it's the dominant variant and that's the only symptoms coming from it, I'm going to call it less than the flu. Now, does that mean that somebody with a specific pre-existing condition might not have issues with it? I'm sure they will, and I feel for those people. But I think those same people will probably have just as much of an issue with the influenza A, B, C, whatever it may be. So I think we can take a very deep breath in if there's anything to come in terms of lockdowns and mask mandates. Not that it wasn't political before, but it's going to be the only way it can get traction is through politicizing it because the science says this maybe even is a good thing.
I'm going to end on this. So I get CNN notifications just like I get Fox and MSNBC and every other whatever because I want to see what all these idiots put out. One of the lead stories this morning on CNN is that Dr. Fauci and the government overreacted and frightened the American people on Omicron.
No question.
So,
no question.
Again, if CNN's putting that stuff out there, they got problems.
Nope, I'm with you on that completely.
I'm going to start a new hashtag Fire Fauci. I'm sure it's been out there before, but I'm going to support it.
I'm sure, but it needs to be pushed. I don't know how it hasn't happened. I don't know how he continues to survive. It concerns me. A lot of things concern me.
Same.
But I think we should move on to the main topic, which is much more positive.
Well, first, I have to say thank you to a new BTR JLA sponsor that I'm very excited about. So we have a new national top 10 jacket sponsor, and it is Bullseye Ranch in Burton, Texas. And Barry, Charlotte, Derek, Cole, all of the brothers there at Bullseye Ranch, Lee and his family, we are very appreciative to y'all for being a national top 10 jacket sponsor. They have a Brahmin Ranch in Burton, Texas. I helped the youngest one, Cole, with some show steers. A great family. They have had several international champions throughout the years. They believe in progressive breeding herd. They are Brahman cattle, come from all over, all types of genetics, and ones that focus primarily on structure and quality cattle of all kinds. They sell to juniors throughout the United States. Just a great family with great Brahman cattle. They've got a long history in that breed, and we really appreciate them for stepping up and being a national top 10 jacket sponsor for the BTRJLA.
Thank you, Bullseye Ranch. It is greatly appreciated. And I noticed, Ryan, even though we state this a lot and you put it up on social media quite a bit, I still get questions about sanctioning fees for the shows. There are none. There are none. And we need to continue to push that, because I think a lot of people have been contemplating whether they want to spend the money to sanction that show. There are no sanctioning fees. I know you put a post up, something about sanctioning is free today. Guys, it's free today. It's free tomorrow. Guess what, Ryan? It's probably free.
No, the post says sanction your show for free today. That doesn't mean just today. It means
exactly.
People are reading that wrong, I guess, because that's the way you write it. But
got a few people in gear. I think it may have worked from that standpoint.
It is free to sanction your shows for all 2022. Because like some people are like, we haven't got our show date yet. You can send in that little paper whenever. Go to the website, the link's on there, fill it out, email it back in. And like I said, all you got to do is fill out the sanctioning form, send in your results when it's over for 2022. And that's as simple as it is. So yeah, sanctioning is free. So everything starts January 1. It's right around the corner. We're excited. When we get to that point, there'll be points up on the website. It's going to be cool. So we're ready.
The main topic this week, once again, brought to you by Boxel, Mr. Boxel, Boxel Manufacturing, everything Boxel, Ryan, everything Boxel.
So I say, if you didn't mention your boyfriend, he was going to end your bromance. I was very concerned for you.
I genuinely appreciate their support. We're using the double blower that we've got. We've just started to bring cattle in to work for Oklahoma City and the Cattlemen's Congress there, and it's the best blower that I've had any chance to use, and I can assure you that those in the barn working that hair, they will jump on that blower before any of the others. So I can give a personal recommendation that I'm in on the product, and even more so just the fact that they're willing to sponsor this podcast, and they're genuinely contributing or want to contribute to the betterment of this industry through education. Thank you, Boxel.
Way to go, Mr. Boxel.
Ryan, the main topic, which you came up with.
Duh.
Focus.
I come up with 99.9% of them.
Focus your resources.
Yes. Focus your resources. So the general idea on this is like, I think that my goal in a lot of these topics is like, I know that not everybody that listens each week, and some people come in and out because they say, hey, you need to go listen to this, whatever. Like, I want to touch on like all facets of the industry and like not just one deal. And so like, I think that there is a section of our industry and a section of these stock show families that they do not have unlimited resources to buy multiple animals, tons of animals, spend as much as they want, or, spend a lot. And so I wanted to speak to them a little bit this week and tell them some things that I think would help out their cause. And that's kind of where the title came from, Focus Your Resources, because I have worked with families before that, were on limited budgets, stuff like that, still wanted to be competitive.
Time out.
What?
This budget thing?
Uh-huh.
And I understand that you didn't have a lot of budget restraints. Would that be accurate?
None.
Okay. I didn't want to offend you. I didn't want to step on your toes.
You did not offend me. I had none.
Okay. So I want to, and I think most of our listeners are probably aware of that. It's not big news, I don't think.
No.
Maybe to some. But what I want you to understand is, I think other than you and maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people in the world, the rest of the world has a budget.
I realize that. That's why I brought up the damn topic.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Continue. I apologize.
Why do you think I brought up the topic, sir?
It's a great topic.
Anyway, for those families that are working on budgets and trying to figure this out, I think the biggest misconception that there is that you look at what you've got to spend and you're like, okay, we can get 3 or we can get 2 or if it's small animals, whatever, we can buy 4. Put all that money on one and get the best one that you can and target that one for whatever show that you think you can do the best at. When you're working within a budget, I think that if we would be so much better off if we just focused on one animal, not only just monetarily, but the time spent, the effort spent solely in on that animal. I think you would just be far, far better off.
I think not only in theory, if you spend more money on that one animal versus spreading it out, in theory, we should be starting with a better animal. And you're right. Then it's compounded because you have more time to pay attention to that animal, to spend with that animal. It seems very simple to me as well, Ryan. Now, I'm in the business of selling show animals, and I would rather that everybody bought as many show animals as they can. But what Ryan is talking about here, when we focus more and consolidate that budget down to just that one animal, I think you're going to have more success. I understand maybe something's going to happen to that animal. I understand the baby pig world. Maybe that would be our exception, Ryan, that some of those pigs just are more difficult to predict how they're going to mature. So maybe you spread your odds out a little bit better and over a few of them. I get that. But for the most part, in the sheep, goat, and cattle world, they're either pretty good young or they're not. And guess what? If they're pretty good young, generally speaking, what are they when they mature, Ryan?
They stay that way normally if they're fed right and maintained well. And
those that have maybe issues when they're young that we think, well, if we can just change this about them,
then you can't.
We spend a lot of time trying to change it. And the majority of the time, it doesn't change.
And that's another point on focusing your resources. I just had a conversation yesterday on the way back from Dallas with a good friend of mine and talking about feeding. And we were discussing, and she said, I think we're good feeders. We're obviously very successful at this. She says, but there are still times where we'll see something and we'll be like, there's no feeding that out of that animal. There's no, this is not going to get better over time. So even though it may be a cheaper option or something, you got to know when you can't do something. You have to be very in tune and aware of what is possible and what is not. And there's only so many things that can be changed with a feeding program or an exercise program or any of the things that we have, tools that we have available. And some things just aren't going to change. And yes, I know that the first thing that people are going to say when they hear this topic is, well, you can't just feed one because one animal won't feed. First off, I'm going to argue that. I know families that have, and again, I'm not going to talk in the sheep world or the goat world or the pig world. While I fed all of those, I have never fed one singular goat, sheep, or pig. We always had 2 or more, but I have had families that have fed one heifer or one steer. Thing ate fine the whole way through. If the budget is that limited where we need to only focus all of our resources on just the one animal, you can go to a sale barn and find something for an eating buddy. That's kind of an out-of-the-box theory, but if that's what you're worried about, or if you get that one home and it's not eating because it's alone, that's one way to handle that. But I know that's going to be something that people say, and I agree with Dale. I mean, I don't know what everybody's budget is. I'm not going to assume, but if you do work within a budget and you normally buy 4, buy 2. Buy 2 better ones than 4, whatever. I think the theory is, the theory that I want to dispute is that we have to have one for every single show we can go to. And basically this is more market animal driven because of course breeding animals, they can go to almost every show. But I think that we would be better off focusing on a couple or one that are really, really good and maybe setting out some more shows. Because again, my experience has basically been with Texas major shows. I mean, yeah, I've shown at all of them, gone to all of them, all this other stuff. But there is a thing in people's heads in Texas. Well, we need one for Fort Worth and we need one for San Antonio and we need one for Austin and we need one for County and all that. You know what? If you want to go watch some of those shows and be with your friends, that's fine. But I think you would be better focusing all your money, all your effort, all your resources on fewer animals that are better.
Absolutely, Ryan. I think you're right on. And I think you hit on a really good part there, that when we say this, consolidate, and we think about when we're selecting these animals, maybe we need to give an example. You said there's some things that aren't going to feed out. I don't care what species we're talking about. And again, maybe there's a little more exception on pigs because of the difficulty of predicting the maturity pattern. But if we have a skeletal issue, more times than not, we need to accept we're probably not going to feed that out. I'm not saying we can't make some adjustments and we can't trim feet. We can't do some things that are going to help. But for the most part, we can't change that, and we need to accept that and just cross that off our list. Some of the other things, let's think of this, and there's still risk involved. What if we have that calf that's pretty skinny, maybe on a poor recip or a poor mother, maybe not a lot of creep feed, but everything looks right, just a little skinny? Are you still taking a risk? And is this one going to have enough muscle or enough shape? Is it going to have a lot of things? But if the skeleton's right, all the other pieces are in place, there's at least a chance of feeding that one to make it a better animal. Does that seem logical, Ryan? That's where I'm willing to take a little bit of risk. But at the same time, I know people are sitting out there thinking, well, if I'm taking the risk to buy this really green one, and that's the only one I have in the barn, if this is just a narrow, hard doing one and not a skinny one, I don't have anything. So I understand both sides of it. So just put more thought into it. And there's no doubt, in general, in the big picture, as we consolidate down in terms of using those monetary resources to buy fewer, that could be buy 4 instead of 8, 1 instead of 2, whatever it may be, I think you're going to find better results.
Yeah, and talking about things that you can change and whatever. Again, structural issues, they're not going to change. And I've had this talk with many people, and I think the thing is that they see that animal and they think, oh, he's so good. Here, this one little thing, it'd be all right. We can work on it. We can fix it. And there are some things, but a significant structural flaw is only going to get worse with time, maturity, and weight. And that's just the simple truth. And I can't say that any simpler. But that is, when you add maturity and you add weight and you add more time on the feet and legs, it's not going to get better. You can look at adults and see that, how it's the same concept, same effect. I know lots of people that have taken risks on skinny ones. They work out sometimes they don't, and it's fine. I understand it. I think there is one common misconception that, again, I want to bring out is when you're talking about skinny ones, I think you need to really study not only the muscle pattern in that animal, but also the body shape in that animal. Because I think a lot of people think that you can feed depth of body into an animal or roundness of rib. And to some extent, there are things that can help that. But if that animal is skinny and still round ribbed and, appropriate enough in terms of body depth for whatever species we're discussing, sure. But if that one's skinny and flat ribbed, it's not going to happen.
It's just not going to work. Your chances are not very good. We're
right.
Darn sure.
I mean,
no, I'm with you.
So when you are looking at those animals that are a little greener and stuff like that, really study the shape in that animal in all aspects, and that will give you more of an indication on what you're working with there.
No, I'd agree. When we're talking about consolidate your resources and consolidate your budget, let's kind of bump in, and we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but consolidate your time. Ryan, how many people have you ever heard say, well, I had more than enough time, or I have more than enough time on my hands. I worked all my show animals. Now I have nothing left to do.
None. I don't think I've
No,
ever
it never. I mean, I truly believe it never happens. As this world's evolved, as things happen, there is not enough time. That's our most precious resource. And I think that there's never a situation where we have more time than what we need to focus on the different projects that we're working with. So when we talk about this, as soon as you consolidate your resources down to fewer animals, obviously you're going to consolidate your time and able to take that time and divide it by fewer animals. This is a win-win almost in every direction that we're talking about. And again, I'm saying this from a standpoint, I make a living selling show animals. I don't want to sell less show animals, but this is the reality of it.
Like you're talking about, no one ever has enough time. I mean, whether it's kids with school, parents with jobs, all this other stuff, time is a very, very precious resource. if we have less to worry about work, that is good because you can put more individual time into a fewer number of head. And we all know that time is limited already. And again, especially talking about budgets, I don't care what species it is. It is not cheap to feed one of these things for a year or more. And I mean, pigs probably a shorter span in terms of feeding them, but and maybe sheep and goats too, a little bit shorter, but it is not cheap to feed these things. And it's not cheap just for the feed, for all you supplement gurus out there. It is not cheap in terms of electricity and all that stuff that comes into the barn. And so just focusing your total resources on a couple or a smaller amount of higher quality stock, it's going to be beneficial all the way around. And then another thing you're talking about on the time issue, Dale, and maybe this is just me, I don't know. But I think the time change this year has been more severe than ever. It's pitch black at 5:20 in my house now. I don't know how. I remember that the time changes happen every year of my life. I don't remember it being this bad.
That's crazy. We know that it's the same. But I'm with you. I feel
God, it seems worse. I'm not kidding.
When my youngest son comes home from school or a practice or whatever, almost every night he's feeding our outside lots in the dark, and it does seem worse. I know that it's not.
I know it's not, but it seems more drastic this year. I'm just saying.
No, it is. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm what the hell is going on here? I mean,
when I think about the time, Ryan, and dividing your time, where we've kind of just focused a little bit on just how many animals and more time per animal if we have fewer animals, all that's very simple. We're so involved, and the youth are so involved in so many activities. I think the decision needs to be made that if you really enjoy all the activities, let's say you're playing 2 or 3 sports and you're showing livestock, maybe a couple different species. And
why would you want to do all that?
Let's just assume people are, okay?
I know.
So if you enjoy all of this, that's good, especially if you enjoy it from a social standpoint, and maybe you're that naturally talented, you don't have to put that much time, but that's unlikely. But you're okay with whatever level of competition or how good you are at that particular discipline. And if you're good with that and that makes you happy, that's great. But the real choice needs to be made if you want to become ultra competitive in one of those, whether it be basketball, whether it be showing hogs, showing cattle, soccer, whatever it may be, the odds of you performing at your very best, you're going to have to focus on that more. So you can't find enough time. The schedules aren't going to allow you to do all those things and be ultra competitive at them. We have a standing rule in place that my youngest daughter talks about all the time. We allow her to play 2 sports a year. And I think that's more than enough. And I'm a huge fan of
too many.
I'm a fan of what some of those sports activities can do in terms of discipline and some work ethic. I mean, some of the same things that we see in the livestock industry. I know that we're very biased, Ryan. We're all about the show youth and everything it does, but there's good that comes from the other side of it as well. And we have to appreciate that. But wow, if you're let's just take baseball or any sport. If you really want to be competitive at that, not only you're going to probably limit how many sports you're involved with, limit how much time you're spending in the show barn, but you're going to be playing in summer league. You're going to be it's going to consume you. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is in everything that we're doing in youth activities. And I blame this a little bit on the parents, and I shouldn't say blame because maybe it's a good thing. But the competition level has increased exponentially the past few years, let's say the past 10 years. And it's to the point now, wow, you almost have to pick a discipline and give everything that you have, everything to succeed in that particular area. I'm not saying that didn't work in the past, and people did that in the past, and it was a huge advantage to do so. Now it's not necessarily an advantage to do so, but if you want to compete and be competitive, you almost have to do that or you're not going to be. And that includes showing livestock. That includes playing basketball, whatever it is. It's a different world.
Everything you say is right. And I'm sitting here hating on sports. And again, that's not to get y'all all wound up. I know good things come from sports. Obviously, I was not a big sports person. I saw injuries and everything else is like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. But like Dale said, I am one of the most competitive people I've ever met. I think Dale will attest to that the more that he gets around me. I see no point in doing something that I'm not naturally talented, gifted at, because you're not going to succeed to the level that I feel like I need to succeed. So I did leadership things in school. I was very active in leadership roles because I'm good at that. And then I did animals. I didn't do sports. I mean, I did FFA, of course, but like that, but that's it, because I'm not going to do like people that like play golf because they enjoy playing golf and they're terrible at it. Like, I don't understand those people. It's just me.
Right,
I just don't like. And so
I absolutely love that you brought this up. And you know what? I'm sitting back here listening to you, and I'm sure there's our listeners out there in the same boat. Some of the really ultra competitive people, and I'm going to throw myself right under that bus. I'm competitive to a fault, as are you, as are many others that we know. With that said, if we're that competitive, and let's say in sports, I was not actively involved in sports, Little League, I mean, a little bit here and there, but I don't know that I was naturally gifted enough to ever really succeed. And I think those ultra competitive people are going to narrow what they do well, and they're going to avoid the others because we don't like getting beat. Mm-hmm. So let's go into the area that we can excel in. And I think that's exactly what you did. That's what I've done nearly all of my life. And some people have enough natural ability, maybe they can do multiple things, but there's not many of those people in the world. And the extremely competitive ones are going to continue to narrow that focus and do what they know they're the best at, or can become the best at. You're dead on. Absolutely correct.
My mother's, I don't know, second or third stepfather, I can't remember. But anyway, he's in the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame because he was this fabulously successful football coach, and mother was cheerleader and whatever, all this other stuff. So like, she wanted her little boys to play football, and Randy did it. And we spent 2 years in junior high, going to every game that he was at. And he played in guard and tackle. He sat on the end of the bench. He guarded the water bottle and he tackled anybody that came near. And I saw absolutely 0 point in any of that, because I think he played one play in 2 years. Of course, he was like 5 feet tall. He was not meant to play football. And so when he was considerably older than me, and so when it came time, I stopped her before I ever got to junior high. I said, look, lady, I'm just going to tell you right now, none of this is happening. So we're just going to get this out, and I'm starting a year in advance because I'm going to junior high next year, because I know this is going to be a problem, but we're not doing this. I'm going to show cows, and, I'll do some UIL things that I like and whatever. But yeah, the rest of that, you might as well just give up on that now, lady. She was not very happy, but I did win.
That's interesting. At a very young age, you had a pretty determined path you were going to take. The one thing I struggle with my children is I want them to find their own path and be passionate about it. And I have 4 kids, and they're all very, very much different. But we have 1 or 2 kids at the youth stock show and breeding livestock. I mean, that's what they're ate up with day and night. That's their passion. But I think if you don't allow them to maybe go out there and find what that passion is, it's hard to direct them maybe in an area that you think's best. And I'm one that thinks, wow, I know what you need to do, and this is how you're going to be successful. But I have come to the conclusion that they have to find their own path, and they have to find, we talk about this a lot, and maybe it's overused, so it's not listened to as clearly as it should, but it is about passion. It better be something that you're driven to do, period.
No.
And I'm going to use an example, and I don't like going down the personal road very well, as Ryan well knows.
Imagine that.
So my passion to try to make what I consider better cattle, or cattle that I like, we went anywhere and everywhere to try to find those, whether it's in country, South America, wherever it may be. But the only reason I would do this from a business model, probably long shot, high risk for sure. But the passion is what drove myself and my wife to do things like that, to go to Argentina, to see what they have available there, to figure out a way to get them out of Argentina into Canada and eventually down into the United States and registered here and just continue forward. But even if it was a great business model, if I didn't have a passion to create something specific like that, there's no way that I would have followed with it, because every step of the way, there's no less than 50 roadblocks that you said, well, this is not going to happen because of A, B, and C. With passion, you're going to find a way to overcome those roadblocks. And if we can allow these kids to find what they're passionate for, and unfortunately, I don't know, some of them aren't going to find that in junior high, maybe not high school, maybe some of them won't find it until later in life. But once they find it, that's going to drive them. And I hope every youth's passion is showing livestock. We know that's not accurate and not even realistic, but there are so many good things that can come from anything they get behind. And if they're the ones driving themselves, not the parents forcing them, but they're passionate about it, they're dedicated, they want to become better at it. And I don't care if it's showing livestock, playing basketball, on the chess team, whatever that may be, if they're the ones driving themselves. Think about it, Ryan. Did you ever have to have your mom say, get your butt in the barn, I want you to win Houston. I want you to do everything you can to win a major or whatever?
No.
That was all you. I'm not saying she didn't want that and didn't encourage that, all of those things. But no matter what she said, okay, let's say she wanted you to play football in junior high.
The things I got were, you need to get your butt back home. It's too late for you to be in the barn. That's the phone calls that I got every night.
And that's what fosters success. We as parents cannot force our child into doing something, no matter how successful we think they can be if they follow this protocol. They have to be the ones that want to do it, or it doesn't work. Can we do all the work for them and send them in the show ring and they're going to have some success? Yes. And that happens every day. But if you want true success, you want them to build from something, it's got to come from them, period.
Very good, Dale. Very good.
And you know what that leads us into, the focus on what you do best. And we kind of already talked about that, but it's that simple. Ryan, you and I probably would not have been football stars. We would not have been basketball stars, whatever it is. So we found that path through the youth livestock shows, whether it be the industry in general, I guess. And if you're very comfortable, and again, we just talked about passion, but if you're very comfortable feeding hogs and successful with it, and maybe you want to try feeding a goat or something like that, nothing wrong with venturing over and trying that. But if it's not something that you can find the help or the guidance from a breeder, from a broker, whatever it may be, don't continue to beat your head against the wall. If you can't overcome some of those obstacles and you're already really good at one thing, maybe narrow back into that thing and take it to another level rather than branching out into a lot of other things. And again, there's some families that show multiple species and they do it extremely well. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you have the guidance in each of those species or the experience, either one, it works out great. But don't beat your head against the wall at something that it just isn't going to happen.
Lovely.
What about market animals versus breeding stock? Same thing, Ryan. I mean, and you brought it up a little bit. Obviously, there's differences. And do you think some families are much more successful in terms of their management protocols for market animals versus breeding animals?
Oh, I'm going to be honest. And regardless of species, I'm only going to do breeding or I'm only going to do market because I don't understand it. I do both. I see the advantages in both. I think that by and large, the things that you have to do to be successful within the species for both is very similar. So if you have the resources and you can, then I don't understand why you wouldn't give yourself more opportunities to succeed. So I have never understood that sections like, oh, we only show market or we only show breeding. But I don't get it. But it's not for me to get. It's for them to get. It's their life. So
and everybody's going to be a little bit different. But I think this was good. And I'm sure you have some more on that, Ryan. But this is a topic that maybe we should have even done sooner. And I think we both discussed it in just personal phone calls and visiting with each other. But it's good. And I hope our listeners understand what we're trying to get at. We're not trying to dictate what you do or say you have to do this or that. But just think about the big picture and think about all the positives that come from just focusing in, dialing in on fewer, spending more time with them, spending your resources on fewer, starting with better. It seems to snowball in a positive direction.
Yes, yes.
Are you ready for your favorite?
Yes, but before we get to question and answer, I want to highlight another BTR-JLA sponsor, and that is Langford Cattle. And I'm going to be honest with you, Watson Langford and his family, they were like the second person that came to me, and they're like, we want to sponsor. I think Oldwood was first, and they were second. And so the reason that they're on the podcast this late is Watson like, I want my podcast spots at a certain time. And I've kept asking, and I know he said late fall or winter. Well, I've asked and he's never came up with, I want it on this date. So I'm going to give a shout out to Watson. And if he wants two other ones on a certain time, that's fine. We can do that for him supporting the still. But, Langford Cattle is the national cattle sponsor. Their goal is to raise and sell the very best Herefords, hybrids, Maine, and Angus cattle available. Family owned and operated since 1917. They have built the best in quality, quantity, and customer service. Langford Cattle is one of the nation's largest private treaty cattle producers, and they invite you to visit the ranch anytime. I personally want to thank Watson Langford and his family for their support and early and from the beginning of the BTRJLA.
We appreciate all that support. Question and answer. And I only have two today, Ryan. I had 30 to pull. I could have pulled from. I brought two. You said you have one. So I have one. Two.
I do.
Okay. Jonathan has a question.
Is this Mr. Boxall? Mr. Boxall does not get questions.
I cannot confirm or deny, but it did not look like it. It came off of Facebook. It came off of Facebook Messenger, a message through the Beyond the Ring Facebook page, and did not look like his profile picture. Now, he could have adapted the account or something. No, his questions would be far different than this one, I think. Yeah, way worse. So this one's coming from Jonathan, not Mr. Boxall. I am aware that many judges across species often use different priorities when judging shows. What ultimately determines what is a good show animal? Oh my!
I think
that's not a Mr. Boxall question, but a good question.
It's a good question, but I think this is relatively simple. And again, I'm going to say that, and people are going to go, "This is not simple." But I think there are three areas of focus that, regardless of species, need to be prioritized. Now, where you prioritize them and how much you prioritize them, that's all individual. But it is structure, muscle, and look. Where my priorities fall on those three and how they fall and what I consider to be more valuable than other is going to be different than others. But those are the three areas: muscle, structure, and look.
I'm there. I think that's very simplified. And there are different priorities out there. And Ryan, there's judges that may not even want to talk about those three things. Maybe they have something totally different. But in general, that seems very, very simplified. So Ryan and I would see animals maybe very similar, see the differences in animals very similar, but prioritize them different within those three categories.
Correct.
So back to Jonathan, it's difficult. I'm going to lean back and take a broader picture in. I'm in the back of my mind, excluding goats, of course. I'm looking at something that I go back to Ryan's favorite, form to function. I want to select or I will prioritize some of those traits that I believe work in the real world. And I know the real world, the show ring, we separate. I get it, guys. I get it. I'm still old school, but I get that much. But without that, for me, in the back of my mind, when I'm sorting livestock, without some basis to pull from, I think I'm just stabbing in the dark, which it's fine. I can tell you what cartoon looking animal I like as a market animal, and here it is. But it's easier for me to have that concept of form to function, that the joints need to be a certain way because it's going to give them longevity. We need a little more body and fleshing ability so they can survive in a limited feed environment. Those kind of things go through my mind, right, wrong, or indifferent. And guess what? I think even Ryan, when you're not necessarily saying these need to work in the real world, we're still selecting for the same things. We're getting to that end in a different manner. We both want structurally correct animals. We both want animals that are good looking. We both want animals with muscle. You just go out and select it. I'm thinking through the back of my mind, this is why I want it. So it's a different process for everybody.
Agreed.
Garrett has a question for you. I don't have Garrett's last name.
You're very sexist. These are all males.
They all two, they are. And I had a lot of them to pull from. And we had a lot of questions coming in that were very repetitive that I left alone this week. And we have these two and then Ryan's question. I have a question for the podcast. As a college student wanting to get into trading a few animals, what tips, trips, recommendations, advice would the two of you have for me and others in my situation?
I think that's a tough deal because I think the thing is location. If you're at college, most of them, you're not going to have land available to you where you can have show animals out there where people can come by and look at them and stuff like that. And then again, if you do at home, going back and forth, checking on them, you're going to have somebody there every day, all that stuff. I know a lot of kids that do this and their parents still help them. And that's great. But I think that part is tough because location. There are very few kids that I know that are at college that also have access to a facility that allows them to broker, sell animals. And so I think that is the tough part right there. There are a lot of advantages to being with someone that is on that college level and not taking anything away from wisdom and experience and, years in the business. But college kids are hungry and they're new at the game. They want to be successful. They want to make a name for themselves. I know a lot of people that have gone to kids that are in college or fresh out of college, and they have made great success and gains just because that person is so interested and so wants to crack into this market that they're going to go the extra step in helping those families. Maybe they'll get better deals on animals, stuff like that. There's a variety of reasons on why. And I think there's a lot of pros to that. The tips I would have for you is if you are in a situation where you can do this or you have access to a facility, do exactly like what I'm saying has worked for those people that I know. Be the one that's hungry, be the one that's going to go way above and beyond the norm of helping those families that come to you and take a risk on somebody new out there in this industry and make it beneficial not only to yourselves, but also to them. And that's how you become a much bigger deal the further on you go.
I like that, Ryan, but I'm going to take a little bit different approach. And I think all those things are very, very, very accurate. My thought on it, it's just a tough business. I can remember playing around with trading a couple animals and buying a part of a bull here.
They did not ask you if they should be in business. They said, "What
I know
the tips, sir?"
I understand.
They want to be in this business.
I have.
Dale is just trying to discourage you so there is less competition in the goat market. That is what he is doing. He is an evil man. Do not listen to him.
No, this is totally different. I cannot let this go without just saying this is a tough business.
It is.
And I think if you're doing it with thoughts of making money, you're probably wrong, because even the very best out there in the industry, very few people that are trading livestock, show livestock, are profiting from that enough to make a living.
It's not their only source of income, is what you're saying.
No, it's not. And I guess if you have disposable income in college, that whatever you put into it, you're okay losing that and you're going to pay your tuition and everything's going to work. I think there's a reason to do it. And I think that experience that you gain in everything involved with it, I love that Ryan talks about you're hungry, you're going to get out there and look harder, you're going to work harder. All those things are going to benefit you, but you really have to realize that don't do it if you think you're going to pay your college tuition from it, because it's a tough business, and those that have remained in it are the few that are actually making some money doing it, or they have another source of income and they enjoyed enough to do it. But I think every young stock show person's goal is to travel the country and fit the rear show side hind leg of a steer at every major show or whatever it may be. It's a great concept from just, it sounds fun. It sounds cool. It's great, all those things, but it doesn't pay a lot of the bills. There's going to be an elite few that can do that and make a living doing that or make a profit doing it, period. And those elite few do it very, very well. So it's a hard one to break into. If you want to do it and not expect to make a living doing so or pay your college tuition, Garrett, I absolutely support you. Get out there, bust your butt, do whatever you can. And it's all about networking when you're in college and meeting people. And that's gonna build upon itself. So all of those things are good things. I'm good with it, Ryan. I'm okay. I just wanted to let them know I am a little bit financially conservative, and I don't want them to lose their college tuition.
I understand. Don't put your college tuition on the line to sell show animals. I get it.
Perfect. Good.
So I have never brought a question and answer to this lovely little podcast before, but as y'all know, I travel a lot judging shows, and so I get asked a million questions. Best question that I ever got asked was this weekend. I was in Coleman, Texas, at a hog show, And Dale's boyfriend, Mr. Boxall, had like got all the exhibitors Rash Hummel t-shirts and all this stuff and whatever. We were winding out the end of the show, and there's a couple ladies up on the announcer block, and they said, "What is it like to be this popular?"
Oh my.
And I tell you what, that question really struck me because it's overwhelming, it's humbling, and it is really, for me, incomprehensible. Those are the answers that I have. And I'm going to tell you why. And those of you listening that know me pretty well or have been around me a lot, whether you know me well or not, you know, wasn't that many moons ago that I was not this popular. Probably the opposite of popular. And while I know that I am extremely unique character within this industry, and I know I'm talented, I think I stay humble, but I know I have talent. I do not see the combination of me being a unique personality and that talent amassing to what this has become. And that's why I say it's a little incomprehensible for me, because I have not changed much as a person. The things that make me wildly popular now is that I am going to be me. I'm going to say the things that I want to say, and I'm going to do the things that I want to do, regardless if it is smart or politically correct or, you know, all of those factors. The way I have judged has never changed. I didn't start 5 years ago not looking at the animals. That has been something my whole life. So I think the same reasons that I am popular now are the exact same reasons when I was wildly unpopular. And so I don't know what has flipped the switch on the whole situation, but I thought that was a great question. Not right then, but when I was driving back thinking about it, I was like, that may be the best question I've ever been asked, because again, who I am has not changed a great deal. Even when I was a kid, most people knew I was gay. I've been wearing some form of makeup since I was 14 years old. I have always worn loud, flashy clothes. I mean, now I'm not going to say that when I came out and stuff like that, other parts haven't gotten more magnified, but pretty much I've been the same person the whole time. And I was wildly unpopular for it. And now it's the complete opposite. So I thought that was a great question, and I wanted to share.
I'm going to insert one comment from it. And I'd like this because this was easy for me. I find entertainment value in it, Ryan.
I know you find
it very entertaining. Very entertaining.
I know you find entertainment value. Dale loves to hear the stories every time.
Oh, it's great. Just Ryan and I were we looked at some cattle this week together, and we were meeting at that location. And he pulled into the office spot, and I was at the sale facility, I believe. So we didn't coordinate maybe to the right spot.
You gave me the wrong address, sir.
that could have been it. Yes. Anyway, the manager there makes a comment that the secretary or the lady in the office had called him and said, I think Ryan Rash is in the parking lot. I think we have a celebrity in our parking lot right now. And I find the most entertainment in that. It is hilarious.
It makes Dale's day every day.
It does. It does. It's very, very entertaining. Well, I think that's all we have for this week, guys. I hope you enjoy the consolidation and focusing on fewer is better, and allow your time to focus more. All those things that came up in this main topic. Thank you to all of our sponsors. It's been a good week. We're going to go into the holiday season. We hope it's a positive one. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?